Hi, everyone. Yay. Yes, I'm back. The goddess of radical self-love. Welcome. This is MECA. Make everyone count always. We are a support network for radical self-love and self-care with focused attention on our caregivers and our care receivers, since we all are caregivers and care receivers. However, when our community's most vulnerable feel supported and valued, our care receivers and those who care for them, caregivers, we all can rest assured we feel supported and valued as well. Correct? Yes. So thank you all to our new subscribers. Yes, our new friends and family. And thank you all to our continued family for your support and love. All your likes, comments, and shares to reach as many of those who need to discover their own radical self-love and become experts in self-care as well. Yep. Master manifestors of self-care and of our desires and of self-transcendence, like today, Self-Transcendence Thursday. Yes, that's what we are doing today. It is Self-Transcendence Thursday at a higher level. That's what we're going to talk about. And to start, I have no voice. I lost it in Cancun, for real, for like 2 or 3 days. And now, it came back a little, but we'll talk about it. Yes. I guess I was supposed to be quiet, be a quiet observer and participator, but you know how that goes. So we have the angel of tranquility is what our universal forces of divinity wanted us to know today and be reminded of. Sorry, it's really hard to see that. Oh, my goodness. Everything is so hard right now. I'm just kidding. Everything's so hard for me right now. Oh my God. Sorry. I'll get more serious eventually. Number 33. Yes, 3 is, my favorite. 3, 6, and 9. Okay. Angel of tranquility. You are in a calm and tranquil state of mind. Life is peaceful, right? This is what we're probably all aspiring for. I can show you how to do that. Well, as the conduit, I can explain for you what they would like you to know. And me too. So, it's really dark in here. I would like to turn on some more lights. We have a visitor. I don't know who that is. Only positive, souls can enter this area, so it's okay. We're all divinely protected here. You have received this card because your angel of tranquility wants to reassure you that you are on the right path. The world has become a very fast-paced and stressful place. Living the simple life seems to have become a thing of the past, but it doesn't have to. And it all depends on what your definition of simple is, right? So the less that, for me anyway, the less that you have as in material possessions, the more freedom you have because, well, you can see the world and get to know more people and not worry about all of the things you're collecting, right? That hold you down and drag you down. Your angel of tranquility wants you to know that she is with you at this time to help you get back to the simple things in life. She wants to help you discover that no matter how busy, stressed, or worried you are, there is a way to get the tranquility and peace back into your life. Maybe I am the angel of tranquility. Have you ever looked at a river lake, or ocean and notice that the water can be still and almost motionless? Have you listened to the gentle movement of the water and felt a sense of calmness within? Take the time to stop, look, and listen and feel a sense of calmness within. Take the time. Oh, I already read that. Sorry. Sometimes we become so caught up in our busy lives that we actually forget that we are also meant to enjoy it. Take 5 minutes out of your day to slow down, focus on your breathing, and surrender your cares to your angel of tranquility. Tranquility can also be invoked by listening to calming music or by sitting in your sacred place and meditating. This is a good place to do that. Sitting still and invoking your angel of tranquility can help restore your soul to its natural state of tranquility. Remember, you have what you need to live the life you were destined for. I'm sorry. I can't read today. I feel like I'm going to have a heat stroke too. I think I brought something back. A sunburn. From the moment we are born, we are all going to die. Our bodies, obviously. The destination is not the most important part of our journey. It is the experiences we have along the way, the life we live, the people we touch, the happiness and love we share with others is the most important. And wow, did I get to do that in the last week. So take the time to be tranquil and serene. Affirmation for the day. My angel of tranquility has helped me to release the issues of the outside world. We're going to talk about that. I am feeling tranquil and at ease. I am feeling tranquil and at ease. That's a good one for your breathing bracelets, those of you who have them or have been lucky enough to receive them. If you would like a breathing bracelet, you can leave a comment or you can email me and I will get back to you. Just you can comment your email address or just email me at Goddess of Radical Self-Love. All our information is in the description below. So just make sure you hit the like button before you before you ask for your breathing bracelet. Make sure you are sharing our content. So what an amazing trip. I learned a lot of lessons of how much I have grown, how much it pays off to do the work. So you all know, the ones who have been with me for a while, how much self-care it takes for the healing of who I used to be, right? The snake that never sheds, which you can read or listen to on our Patreon, also in the description, my memoir. But even beyond that, you know, when I started making decisions to put me first, so that's what radical self-love is. It's really hard to do for somebody who was very codependent, right? So I was so worried about making everyone else happy. And it was really out of need, my own need. So it wasn't genuine. Like now it's genuine because, well, my task isn't to make anyone happy except for me. And by doing that, I don't need anything from you. So by making me happy, by doing my own self-care, and by taking care of myself, I become non-codependent. I mean, we all are dependent, obviously, in one way or another. We depend on each other for all kinds of things. So, like I've used as an example before, I'm really sorry about my voice. If you're driving, right? We're all looking out for one another. So we're depending on the other drivers to also see us, not just look forward, right? Because that wouldn't work. We depend on people to make sure we have our food. We depend on people to make sure we can get from this area of the country to that area of the country, or this area of the world to that area of the world. We depend on people all the time, as our teachers, as our friends, I guess, but in different ways, right? So our actual needs that sustain us and keep us going, obviously, we are dependent upon. However, when we're talking about our friends or our family members or people that we have close associations with, we depend on them for support in another way. A healthier way is, well, if you need somebody to talk to, you can definitely talk to one of them, right? However, it might be a better idea to seek out a therapist and not put your issues on your friends, right? Or do your self-care and really start examining your own self and what you need to give what you need. In order to do that, you can also find our MECA Maslow manifestation map or care plan. So you're able to identify the areas in your life you need to work on, right? Well, so I'm like, I gotta move my chair. Sorry. Quite a few things happen. So this might be a longer video. Whatever. Who cares? One, as you know, on the last video, I hope it uploaded. I should check and see. But I couldn't get out of Dodge or Minnesota. So for a minute, but then everything worked out super smoothly after, because I just trusted and believed that things would work out. I didn't fall apart, right? I didn't make things more than they were. I just stayed with the plan and kept going with it. And when I ended up getting to Cancun, I stayed at a fabulous place. And I wasn't going to say what it is, but I think I should, because they were just so good. So, Temptation, right? Temptation Resort. And it was a little different than what I was used to. And I was happily surprised. Everybody was very free and open. And I really obviously enjoy that, because I am as well. Although, just because people are free and open doesn't always mean they're necessarily not codependent. So I had quite a few issues with others' codependency, mainly one, and I can handle it just fine. Codependency meaning needing to be the center of attention, for one. Working to have others' acceptance or respect, right? Counting on them fulfilling you instead of you fulfilling you, right? And it was kind of interesting, because before we even left, I made it I made sure that we defined exactly how we were going on this trip, exactly what our relationship was, which is also, I would say, the most important when it comes to your relationships, that I found now is defining exactly what you're looking for, I guess, so that there's not really any questions as to your roles, your responsibilities, right? So we had already defined, that we're friends. So we have no, I don't know why I can't think of the words today. responsibility to each other to entertain each other, for one, right? So you can go do your thing and I can go do my thing and we can meet in the middle, which worked out well to a point. When I was supposed to do what they wanted to do, then it didn't work out. So that was frustrating for a minute. Not like, I just don't like the drama, right? So we had to reassess. And hopefully we can still be friends. So basically, I met a lot of friends because, well, I didn't need to be the center of attention and entertaining everyone. I could just relax and let people come in and kind of get to know the real me, and I could get to know the real them and build relationships. So that's really what this is about do you want to build your image or do you want to build relationships, right? And obviously, even though I have this platform and I want to build a company, and it gets a little, hard. But the thing is that, like I said before, I don't want fans. I want friends. And I want students. And I want teachers. So that's the way it works for me. And if you want fans, I can be in your fan club, but I may not be so excited about it because I'm really not like that. But I know a lot of people who are, so I could probably hook you up. But so basically I ended up going off on my own quite a few times and hanging out with some different groups of people that were amazing. And I can't wait to build our relationships further because, yeah, they're gifts from the universe and very much on the same levels as not needing this outside approval, being independent. So we're going to learn about that a little bit today through my boyfriend, Maslow. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yum. Oh my gosh. Let me just say though, so we went to Temptation, then we went to Sands, or Oasis Sands. And so Temptation was kind of like craziness. Super fun all the time, always on, beautiful, romantic, and at the same time just playful and yummy. And then you go over to the Oasis Sands, which is sold, so it's going to be changing, but it was more like a more sophisticated, like chill, nice place to go right before you're going to go home. However, because I had met some people over at the other place and things were not working out with my other friend and we had kind of like had enough of each other, I was given an opportunity to go back over to Temptation and for a few days and extend my vacation, and it was pretty amazing. Yeah, so that was about it. Lots of fun, lots of sun. I got burnt and I met some of the greatest people ever. So yeah, so excited to go back again. I hope soon. Real soon. So let's begin with, towards a psychology of being. So we can talk about self-transcendence a little more. And when we're talking about self-transcendence, we have to make sure that you're surpassing that lower ego. So your, physiological needs on the bottom, right? All those are sustained. All those are good. We're happy with all that, right? So then we go up to our safety and security, right? So we're talking about deficiency needs right now. And then we go up to love, belonging, our community, right? So that's more of like, we're talking about the root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus, right? And then we get into like the lower ego, our heart chakra. So lower ego, meaning I know who I am in the world, so that can really be close to your solar plexus as well, right? Courage, strength, all these things. But when we're talking about the heart and love part, it's more, are you getting your needs sustained by the outside or from the inside? Because if you're doing it from the inside, you're going into your higher heart. And if you're getting it from the outside, it's the lower heart, right? So it's like more of the solar plexus when you're getting it from the outside. It's pushing it down instead of having it be genuine and flow out like a fountain. So flow out like a fountain of love, right? Because you love yourself, you appreciate yourself, you've let go of shame and guilt, right? And you have full forgiveness and compassion for yourself so you can offer these things to others. And then we go up, of course, into our throat chakra where we can communicate our real selves. We can be creative and work with the divine to make new, different, better, and more things for not, well, we'll keep going up. So once we get up higher into self-transcendence, then we're making those things for others. We're really putting what we know, our knowledge, right? Our intuition, our third eye, working with the divine, oneness, unity, into our heart and coming out of our throat chakra creative. So we're giving that to the rest of the world, our gifts of our knowing and the divine working through us then, through our higher heart. But it's really hard to get there if you're stuck on these lower chakra grids. If you're stuck on the physiological needs, safety and security, the community and love and belonging, all these things, right? If you don't know your place in the community, it's really hard to get into those higher levels. So that's what we're learning about here. Really about how we can find really love ourselves. Love on yourself first. So, well, you can be like me and sit at home all day long and not need outside approval or influences to think you're amazing. You know you're amazing, not think you are. And it's not about, I'm still humble. I know I have everything to learn. I know that there's a higher power I'm constantly working with. And I don't know how to always integrate everything I know fully, but I appreciate where I'm at. And I understand that I'm a human being. So there's someone being the human, right? My higher self is being this human, but I'm still a human. So I have animalistic tendencies. So obviously I'm going to make mistakes or not always be sure and have learning, days of learning, moments of learning. And this is why we have to really offer ourselves the forgiveness and the compassion and not hold on to shame or guilt. Those have to just be X'd out of your life. Shame and guilt just have to go. It's over with. No more of it. In order for you to understand that you don't need the love and affection and respect from other people anymore. You have it all within. So you're not going to grade, right? You're not going to grade who you are based on somebody else because, well, you could have quite a bad day if how you're judging yourself is on somebody else respecting you or appreciating you or loving you. If you don't have that going on right now in this moment, it might be pretty difficult to get through the day. I know I was there for years and years and years and years and years. So the more I gave, because I wanted the same in return, the more disappointed I became because nobody could fulfill me. No matter how hard they tried or if they tried at all, and it was pretty easy for people to manipulate me then too, which now it's not. I see through people. It's actually in some ways harder at times now because I see what's going on pretty quickly. And even though I understand and appreciate where people are at, it's difficult at times for me to get past the fact that they're still needing outside influences to support them in their own self-care and love, their own self-love. Like they're letting people dictate their days or evenings based on how they're treating them instead of, you know, just letting it go. And yeah, it makes it frustrating for me when I can't spend the time I want to with somebody because they're so worried about how the outside world sees them. So it's like a waste of time sometimes. Not totally, obviously, but I'm like, I would like this relationship to go to the next level, but it can't if you're not on the same level with me, not needing that attention or approval or respect or whatever. It's really difficult because, well, in my closest relationships, I do not want to be a teacher all the time. Sometimes I would like to be a student, but I mean, I am anyway, even in the other ones. Whatever. I'm like, this is how my brain works. I know, it's crazy. So, I got to turn on these lights. Yeah. So I'm back to the boots. That's what I don't get. It's April. Why is it snowing? I don't want to wear boots in April. I want to go back to Cancun and wear a bikini. Yeah. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, universe. Thank you, universe. Thank you, universe. Thank you. Yes. This is important. Gratitude. That's the first step of the day. Change your attitude and have gratitude. Yes. So, let's begin with my boyfriend Maslow, since I can't find, I just want Maslow to return. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I have met some, I shouldn't say I haven't because, well, I was very lucky. I was a very lucky lady. I'm a lady of luck. Yes. I met some pretty amazing individuals. You all know who you are. I mean, yeah, obviously you do. If you were in Cancun with me and you're watching this, you know who you are. So, what psychology can learn from existentialists? So, don't get upset that I can't talk today, okay? If we study existentialism from the point of view of what's in it for the psychologist, we may find that it is too vague and too difficult to understand from a scientific point of view. I will be breaking this down, don't worry. Not comfortable or discomfortable. Sorry, it's confirmable and disconfirmable. But we also find a great deal that is of profit. From such a point of view, we find it to be not so much a totally new revelation as a stressing, confirming, sharpening, and rediscovering of trends already existing in third force psychology. To me, existential psychology means essentially two main emphases. First, it is a radical, we love that word, right? Radical self-love. It is a radical stress on the concept of identity and the experience of identity as a sine qua non. I love that, sine qua non. I'm just going to say it all the time, sine qua non. So it's in my favorite word dictionary now, or whatever quotes. So sine qua non is an essential condition, something that is absolutely necessary, like radical self-love, sine qua non, right? So we have radical stress on the concept of identity, and then the experience of an identity as sine qua non, right? Of human nature and of any philosophy or science of human nature. I choose this concept as the basic one party because I understand it better than terms like essence, existence, ontology, and so on. And partly because I feel also that it can be worked with empirically, if not then soon. But then paradox results from the American psychologists have also been impressed with the quest for identity. Alport, Rogers, Goldstein, Fromm, Wheels, Erickson, Murphy, Horney, and May. And I must say that these writers are a lot clearer and a lot closer to a raw fact, more empirical than Germs, Hager, Jasper, right? Sorry, I shouldn't have even read all that. It's just not even important. Secondly, it lays great stresses on starting from experiential knowledge rather than from systems of concepts or abstract categories or priorities. Existentialism rests on I don't know what's wrong with me today, for real. Phenomenology. Yeah, there we go. It uses personal subjective experience as the foundation upon which abstract knowledge is built. But many psychologists also have started with the same stress, not to mention all the various brands of psychoanalysis. So here we go. This is probably a better definition of where we're going. Number one, conclusion number one is then that European philosophers and American psychologists are not so far apart as appears at first. We Americans have been talking prose all the time and didn't know it. Partially, of course, this stimulates development in different countries is itself an indication that the people who have independently been coming to the same conclusions are all responding to something real outside themselves. Two, this something real, I believe, is the total collapse of all sources of values outside the individual. Many European existentialists are largely reacting to Nietzsche's conclusion that God is dead, and perhaps to the fact that Marx also is dead. The Americans have learned that political democracy, don't listen to me, just kidding, and economic prosperity don't in themselves solve any of the basic value problems. So, basic value problems like democracy and economic prosperity do not solve basic value problems, meaning it can't be found outside yourself still. No matter how much money you have, no matter how fair everything seems on a balanced type scale, right? There's no place else to turn but inward, to the self as the locus of values. Paradoxically, even some of the religious existentialists will go along with this conclusion part of the way. It is extremely important for psychologists that the existentialists may supply psychology with the underlying philosophy which it now lacks. Logical positivism has been a failure, right? Nobody can make you be happy. If somebody, you can pretend, but nobody's going to be able to make you be happy. It still has to come from within. And no matter how many beautiful things you have around you, it doesn't mean you're going to be happy unless you see yourself as beautiful. Then you might start really noticing and appreciating the beautiful things that are around you, but only then. Really appreciating what they are, not just noticing what they look like or how they feel. Essentially, for clinical and personality psychologists, at any rate, the basic philosophical problems will surely be opened up for discussion again, and perhaps psychologists will stop relying on pseudo-solutions or on unconscious, unexamined philosophies they pick up as children. 4. An alternative phrasing of the core for us Americans of European existentialism is that it deals radically with that human predicament presented by the gap between human aspirations and human limitations, between what the human being is and what he would like to be and what he could be. This is not so far off from the identity problem as it might sound at first. A person is both actually and potentially. So this is all still based on our outlook of deficiency needs compared to growth needs. There are individuals who are constantly on their growth needs, right? And there are others who are sustained by their deficiency needs. So as long as everything is at the moment good on their deficiency needs. So there's what's the word again? It's like an S. Satisfied. Yeah, all their like lower needs are satisfied, right? Their lower chakra grid too, whether it's physiological, safety and security, community, where they fit. If that's all, good, they're satisfied, then many times they will not, some individuals, many will not keep reaching up into the growth needs, right? Where there's more emphasis on learning and creating and building. So where you are compared to where you could be, whether that's deficiency needs or growth needs, it's always, they're always there, right? It always is that same balance. That serious concern with this discrepancy would revolutionize psychology. There is no doubt in my mind. Various literature already supports such a conclusion. Projective testing, self-actualization, the various peak experiences in which this gap is bridged, the Jungian psychology's various theological thinkers. Not only this, but they raise also the problems and techniques of integration of this twofold nature of man, his lower and higher, his creatureliness, so that's the human part, right? And the godlikeness, that's the higher self. On the whole, most philosophies and religions, Eastern as well as Westerns, have dichotomized them, teaching that the way to become higher is to renounce and master the lower. The existentialists, however, teach that both are simultaneously defining characteristics of human nature, right? Because as human being, we, no matter what, have deficiency needs. We, no matter what, have to rely on others. And then on the other side of it, there's the separate higher self. That can be the giver, or it can just sustain your creativeness, right? Well, both. Really both. Where you can reach into another outside of your 3D concepts, outside of materialization of things, outside of what you can only see. It's now what you feel, what you know without seeing, what you believe without seeing, right? The higher dimensions. Yes, there are higher dimensions. As we could pretty easily see with even our phone services, right? How quickly those have changed. If you even use that as an example. So, neither can be reputed. They can only be integrated, right? So, even though we have all these different levels in the MECA manifestation map, or Maslow. But if you go into the MECA manifestation map, you'll see that they're all defined clearly, not just categories as in like physiological needs. Like, they're listed off, so you can actually grade yourself and where you're at. And just because you don't have all of those checked off, maybe physiological, safety, security, community, love and belonging, all these different categories on the bottom, does not mean you can't go up to the top and be in some of those grids or all of them. And especially individuals who have surpassed some of the bottom ones early on, really start to notice when they get to the top that a lot of those bottom ones are really more of concepts that are human consciousness is made up as being the most important. But I mean, obviously we still need food and water to be sustained, right? So and it's really about integrating the child too. So the child meaning your child, even if you're an adult, that inner child, that wounded child, the shadow, how are we going to integrate that? It's not like a lot of people want to kill the shadow. And I don't really believe in that. I really think it's more about giving the child, your inner child, what it wants, not in a way where they're being bratty about it because they're not getting what they want. So they like, basically you'll start, what is it called? I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm just exhausted from vacation. You know, when you like, it's not self-harming, obviously. It is self-harming, but it's, I know all you are going, oh, it's this. You know what I mean. So you kind of make trouble for yourself subconsciously because you're not giving your inner child what it really needs, right? And by giving your inner child what it really needs, by going through the manifestation map, right, then you'll you'll start to live the best life that you are meant to, because you are giving yourself what you always needed as a child and following your dreams, goals, and passions. And you're giving yourself maybe the love and acceptance and forgiveness and compassion, things that maybe you felt you didn't get as a child, or other people that harmed you. You can now do the self-care that you need, right? And give yourself the self-love that you need in order to surpass that, where you're not doing the thing I can't think of anymore. Whatever. You all know. I know you do, because you're super smart. Yeah. But we already know something of these integration techniques of insight, of intellect in the broader sense of love, of creativeness, of humor and tragedy, of play, of art. I suspect we will focus our studies on these integrative techniques more than we have in the past. Heart and throat chakra work. Another consequence for my thinking of this stress on the twofold nature of man is the realization that some problems must remain eternally insoluble. 5. From this flows naturally a concern with the ideal, authentic, or perfect, or godlike human being, a study of human potentialities as now existing in a certain sense of current knowledgeable reality, right? Knowable reality, knowledgeable, whatever. This too may sound merely literary, but it's not. I remind you that this is just a fancy way of asking the old unanswered questions. What are the goals of therapy, of education, of bringing up children, etc., etc.? What are your goals? Well, a lot of times, in order to find your goals, we can go through the manifestation map and identify really what your likes, dislikes, right? Because that's how you do the manifestation map. Your likes, dislikes, your strengths, and your challenges. And we can come out to seeing a clear, concise picture of really what you would like your goals to be, right? For therapy or education or whatever it is in your life, career-wise. It also implies another truth and another problem which calls urgently for attention. Practically every serious description of the authentic person extent implies that such a person, by virtue of what he has become, assumes a new relation to his society, and indeed to society in general. He not only transcends himself in various ways, he also transcends his culture. He resists enculturism, like line dancing. If he doesn't want to do it, he can do his own dance. Sorry. He becomes more detached from his culture and from his society. He becomes a little more a member of his species, his own species, and a little less a member of his local group. My feeling is that the most sociologists and anthropologists will take this hard. I therefore confidently expect controversy in this area. Well, I for sure, as I've gone through this process, to me, it's more about, let's just take my relationships for example. For me, it's all about quality, not quantity. In everything I do, but more than anything in my relationships. I do not care to have 1 million friends if 99% of them suck. Sorry. I mean, not that people suck. I shouldn't say that. Let's just say resources, because you guys know I say that all the time. Resources for anything. Goods and services, right? If you have 1 million pairs of shoes, and 99% of them are uncomfortable, what's the point of having 1 million pairs? I'd rather have the 1%. Does that make sense? It does to me, but that's what he's saying. So you're going to step out of what would be culturally the norm and have no problem doing that when you are in radical self-love, when you are in self-actualized form, when you are on your way or have self-transcended, because it's no longer about the lower ego and fitting in. It's about operating from an observation point of view now. So now you're more like a researcher, right? Or a scientist, seeing what works and what doesn't. 6, from the European writers, we can and should pick up their greater emphasis on what they call physiological anthropology. That is the attempt to define man and the differences between man and any other species, between man and objects, and between man and robots. What are his unique and defining characteristics? What is so essential to man that without it he would no longer be defined as a man? On the whole, this is a task from which American psychology has abdicated. The various behaviorisms don't generate any such definition, at least none that can be taken seriously. What would a SR man be like? And who would like to be one? Freud's picture of man was clearly unsuitable, leaving out as it did his aspirations, his realized hopes, his godlike qualities. right? Because we have godlike qualities. There is someone being the human being. This is only a skin suit. We're going to take it off one day and go and hang it in a closet with all the rest of them. But the being will still remain. So obviously we have godlike qualities. The fact that Freud supplied us with our most comprehensive system of psychopathy, pathology, and psychotherapy is besides the point, as the contemporary ego psychologists are finding out. 7. The Europeans are stressing the self-making of the self in a way that the Americans don't. Both the Freudians and the self-actualization and growth theorists in this country talk more about discovering the self, as if it were there waiting to be found, and of uncovering therapy, shoveling away the top layers of shit. Just kidding. The top layers, and you'll see what has always been lying there hidden. To say, however, that the self is a project and is altogether created by the continual choices of the person himself is an extreme overstatement in view of what we know of the constitutional and genetic determinants of personality. The clash of opinion is a problem that can be settled empirically. 8. A problem we psychologists have been ducking is the problem of responsibility and the necessarily tied with it the concepts of courage and of will in the personality. That's our solar plexus, right? Perhaps this is close to what psychoanalysts are now calling ego strength. So once we can find our courage and our will and follow that, and not necessarily what the outside influences want us to do or be, right? Then we can keep moving up into, although it's a lot easier to follow your strength or have courage and all that. So if you love yourself first, it's a lot harder to do it if you're relying on other people's acceptance and approval. Because, well, how are you going to have real courage then? Right? If you have to go against the grain. I think you have to have radical self-love first in order to really power the solar plexus. And a lot of times, well, at least with me, that really did come from building MECA, or knowing that there was a higher purpose that I wanted to give to others. I'm going to have to examine this some more. Sorry. I digress. 9. American psychologists have listened to Alport's call for an idiographic psychology, but haven't done much about it. Not even the clinical psychologists have. We now have an added push from the phenomenologists. I knew I was going to do this. Phenomenologists and existentialists in this direction, one that will be very hard to resist. Indeed, I think theoretically impossible to resist. If the study of the uniqueness of the individual does not fit into what we know of science, then so much the worse for that conception of science. It too will have to endure recreation. Sorry, I'm just trying to see. I think I'm going to stop here. Well, I'll just go to the end. I'll just go to the end of this page. 10. Phenomenology has a history in American psychological thinking, but on the whole, I think it has languished the European phenomenologists, with their excruciatingly careful and laborious demonstrations, can reteach us that the best way of understanding another human being, or at least a way necessary for some purposes, is to get into his Weltanschauung, Weltanschauung. I love that word, and I do like it better when I've heard it pronounced for me. And to be able to see his world through his eyes, right? So basically, to be able to see through another's behaviors and idiosyncrasies, right? And be able to see the world through his eyes. So how do you do that except for by questioning, right? Or using the master manifestation plan, the MECA, Maslow, right? Of course, such a conclusion is rough on any positive, I still can't do it. Positivistic, haha, psychology of science. 11. The existentialist stress on the ultimate aloneness of the individual is a useful reminder for us not only to work out further the concepts of decision, of responsibility, of choice, of self-creation, of autonomy, of identity itself. It also makes more problematic and more fascinating the mystery of communication between aloneness via intuition and empathy, love and altruism, identification with others, and harmony in general. We take these for granted. It would be better if we regarded them as miracles to be explained. Isn't that beautiful? It also makes more problematic and more fascinating the mysteries of communication between aloneness via intuition and empathy, love and altruism, identification with others, and harmony in general. We take these for granted. It would be better if we regarded them as miracles to be explained. It just makes me just fall in love with him over and over. 12. Another preoccupation of existentialist writers can be phrased very simply, I think. It is the dimension of seriousness and profundity of living, or perhaps the tragic sense of life, contrasted with the shadow and superficial life. Shadow and superficial. Lower ego. Outside influences influencing who you think you are. Which is kind of a diminished living, right? If you need that attention, if you're seeking attention, validation, respect, all these things, it's diminished living, right? I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my eyelash. This is not just a literary concept. Sorry, I want to finish that. It is the dimension of seriousness and profundity of living, right? Profundity. Or perhaps the tragic sense of life, contrasted with the shallow and superficial life, which is a kind of diminished living, a defense against the ultimate problems of life. This is not just a literary concept. It has real operational meaning. For instance, in psychotherapy, I and others have been increasingly impressed with the fact that tragedy can sometimes be therapeutic, and that therapy often seems to work best when people are driven into it by pain. I concur. It is when the shadow of life, it is when the shadow life doesn't work that it is questioned, and that there occurs a call to fundamentalist. Shallowness in psychology doesn't work either, as the existentialists are demonstrating very clearly. So, like I have explained many times, this is almost done, don't worry. Sorry. Like I have explained many times, through a life of tragedy and triumph, obviously, but it took a long time for the triumph to set in, which is fine because it eventually did. And I mean, I think there was triumphs after triumphs, and that's also what kept me going. But there was a lot of reciprocal energy that kept playing out, right? It was over and over the same choices. And I wouldn't say it was necessary. Well, maybe it was therapy when I went, to school. That helped break the patterns because I was able to see what the patterns were. Especially with psychology, right? And to be honest, yeah, it was great having a therapist. Therapists are awesome. It gives you an outside person to talk to. But to really learn how to deal and to really get the tools that you need, it all is about self-care. It is 100% about following your dreams, goals, and desires, leaving behind guilt and shame, having forgiveness and compassion for the self. It is all about radical self-love, right? So the fact that I was able to clearly study in the way I was because I wanted to understand myself and I wanted to understand the culture and the community and why the lack of support. Real support. Why wasn't it there, right? So I was more invested in taking apart or defining for myself all these different categories, because that's just what I do. Yeah, OCD, whatever, Asperger's, call it whatever you want. It was because of the life I had. It was because of the pain I was in that I wanted to understand. I wanted to help myself, obviously, but I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to help myself. I mean, I thought I was on to something a lot of times. I knew when things weren't right and had to change. That's for sure. I just didn't know how to not keep making the same choices. Whether that was the type of people, because we're creatures of familiarity, right? We like consistency. So we go towards what we know. And push away what we don't, even if it's good for us, right? So I had to learn for myself what that reciprocal energy was looking like. So I could identify like, oh, there it is again. There it is again. Oh, that's a little different. That's, and the more I said no to things, the more I released things that were not good for me, the more I could spot them again when they came back, and be able to make different choices. So now it's more about, again, having my hands held open, right? This way, when we have our hands held open and we're not holding on to anything, we're letting things just come in and go out as they need to, as the universe designs, right? Whatever lands there, if it's meant to stay, it will stay on its own. I don't need to force it. And I really don't get too attached to anything anymore. I'm good here. So my need for others, love, acceptance, approval, all that, even though I like it. I mean, I like to have friends. I love people around me. I love good people. It means a lot to me to have amazing people in my life. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. But I don't really need unhealthy people in my life anymore. And I'm very grateful for understanding and knowing that. And for my own health. I'm very grateful that I have taken the time, and I continue to take the time to give me what I need. In all areas, I come first. And you can say I'm selfish all you want. But I know what radical self-love is, and I know what my mental health is now. And if it's called selfish, then I want to be selfish, I guess. But I cannot love you. I cannot give you the love you deserve. I cannot give you the respect you deserve. I cannot give you the care you deserve if I'm lacking in giving those things to myself. So self-transcendence, right? When we transcend the self, we have to go through the self to transcend. We can't go opposite and come down like, it doesn't work that way. In order for us to have oneness and unity with all, we have to go through the self, and that means our own self-love, choosing the self first, no matter how that looks to others. And it does mean walking on your own and alone a lot of times, and I'm okay with that because I love myself and I'm awesome. I love my own company. Yep. So hi everyone, that was a joke. Just kidding. We're still on. I just wanted to read the rest of the chapter because we're almost done, and it just doesn't make sense to start it in the middle again next time. Well, in the last page. So I'm just going to read it for you. 13. The existentialists, along with many other groups, are helping to teach us about the limits of verbal, analytic, and conceptual reality. They are part of the current callback to raw experience as prior to any concepts or abstractions. This amounts to what I believe to be a justified critique of the whole way of thinking of the Western world in the 20th century, including orthodox positivistic science and philosophy, both of which badly need re-examination. 14. Possibly most important of all the changes to be wrought by the phenomenologist and existentialist is an overdue revolution in the theory of science. I shouldn't say wrought by, but rather helped along by, because there are many other forces helping to destroy official philosophy of science or scientism. It is not only the Cartesian split between subject and object that needs to be overcome. There are other radical changes made necessary by the inclusion of the psyche and of raw experience in reality. And such a change will affect not only the science of psychology, but all other science as well as parsimony, simplicity, precision, orderliness, logic, elegance, definition, etc. are all of the realm of abstraction, right? 15. I close with the stimulus that has most powerfully affected me in the existentialist literature, namely the problem of future time in psychology. Not that this, like all other problems or pushes I have mentioned up to this point, was totally unfamiliar to me nor, I imagine, to any other serious students of theory of personality. The writings of Charlotte Burr, Gordon Allport, and Kurt Goldstein should all have sensitized us to the necessity of grappling with the systematization, systematizing the dynamic role of the future in the presently existing personality, growth and becoming, and possibly necessarily point towards the future. So do the concepts of potentiality and hoping, and of wishing and imagining. Reduction to the concrete is a loss of future. Threat and apprehension point to the future. No future equals no neurosis. Self-actualization is meaningless without reference to a currently active future. Life can be a gestalt in time, etc., etc. So we're comparing the two, right? If you have no future aspirations, maybe you have no neurosis. Or you can have no self-actualization without a reference to the current active future. So without dreams, hopes, desires, goals, there's no self-actualizing because you have nothing to reach for. So which is better? And yet the basic and central importance of this point for the existentialist has something to teach us. Erwin Strauss' paper in the May volume, I think it fair to say that no theory of psychology will ever be complete which does not centrally incorporate the concept that man has hit his future within him. Man has his I don't know what's wrong with me. Man has his future within him, obviously, dramatically active at this present moment. There's always something that's pulling you towards the future outlook, right? A wish, a hope, a dream, an aspiration, or sustainability of your needs. In this sense, the future can be treated as a historical in Kurt Lewin's sense, although we must realize that only the future is in principle unknown and unknowable, which means that all habits, defenses, and coping mechanisms are doubtful and ambiguous since they are based on past experiences. Only the flexible, creative person can really manage future. Hands open. Only the one who can face novelty with confidence and without fear. Right? Like we talk about, especially on Master Manifestation Mondays, leaving fear, doubt, worry behind. Embracing the now. The fear is from the past, what has happened, or the fear of what could happen, instead of trusting and believing. Let's just do that part. Trust and believe. Intentions and trusting and believing that the universe will bring us what we need. I am convinced that much of what we now call psychology is the study of the tricks we use to avoid the anxiety of absolute novelty by making believe the future will be like the past. Conclusion. These considerations support my hope that we are witnessing an expansion of psychology, not a new ism that could turn into an anti-psychology or into an anti-science. It is possible that existentialism will not only enrich psychology, it may also be an additional push towards the establishment of another branch of psychology, the psychology of the fully evolved and authentic self and its way of being. Studich has suggested calling this on-top psychology. On-top psychology. Certainly, it seems more and more clear that what we call normal in psychology is really a psychopathology of the average. Normal, average. I don't know if that really works into my, quality over quantity. Would quantity be the average? I think so. Yep. And quality would be the unnormal, right? Abnormal. Quality would be outside the average. So undramatic, let's reread. Certainly it seems more and more clear that what we call normal in psychology is really a psychopathology of the average. So undramatic, and so widely spread that we don't even notice it ordinary. The existentialist study of the authentic person and of the authentic living helps to throw this general phoniness, right? Because you're trying to fit in. You're molding yourself towards the average. And so you're phony. This living by illusions, the illusion is normal. And by fear into a harsh, clear light, which reveals it clearly as sickness. So the ordinary and normal average is actually the sickness, even though widely shared. Cultural sickness. I don't think we need to take too seriously the European existentialist exclusive harping on dread, on anguish, on despair, and the like, for which their only remedy seems to be to keep a stiff upper lip. No, we have a plan for it. It's okay. We don't need to do that. This high IQ whimpering on a cosmic scale occurs whenever an external source of values fails to work. Like I said, the outside sources fail to give you what you want. Love, respect, appreciation, validation, right? You give those to yourself. They should have learned from the psychotherapist that the loss of illusions and the discovery of identity, though painful at first, can be ultimately exhilarating and strengthening. The loss of illusions and the discovery of identity. Who are you? Without the approval and acceptance of others, who are you? Though painful at first, because it can be lonely. Because you're so used to that codependency. Can be ultimately exhilarating and strengthening. It is. I promise. I promise you. The goddess of radical self-love would not steer you wrong. It's all about knowing who you are, loving who you are, appreciating who you are. So all of that can just flow out. All the love for yourself flows out over and over and over. And it's so genuine. The attention you give to others, the observation you give to others, it's real. And I promise you, others will appreciate it. And you will appreciate others. You will appreciate their outlooks. You will appreciate their opinion. You will appreciate standing in their shoes and seeing the world from their eyes, what they're seeing. So, I love you all so much. Thank you all Thank you so much. I have so much gratitude to my friends that I found in Cancun and shared their time with me. I appreciate you so much. And all our friends and family here, thank you so much for all the love and support you give me, the Conscious Queen, MECA, each and every day. Your likes, comments, shares, and your donations to help us keep going. I love you. Oneness. Let it flow out.